Thanks for staying with us today on the Dan Kofal Show. Our website is dankofal.com. You can go out and learn a lot about us. Our good friends out at libertyexpressradio.com, redstatetalkradio.com. Thank you very much, and we appreciate you carrying us. And iHeartRadio all over the world. You can hear us live on iHeartRadio. Thank you all so much. 877-326-3255. Without further ado, my good friend has been a guest of ours for just a ridiculously long amount of time, and he is I got to tell you, Gerald is – I always say people are in my top list. I love all of our guests, but Gerald has just been our go-to guy for years. Gerald, you have the undivided attention and respect of everybody in our organization. We love you, my friend. Let's talk a little bit about Gerald just to let you know who he is. Founder of Trends Research Institute in 1980, pioneering trend strategist, author of the national bestseller Trends 2000 and Trend Tracking, far better than Megatrends, and publisher. And I just got your latest edition just today, Gerald, and it is just great, the internationally acclaimed TrendsJournal newsletter. Gerald Celente, how are you, buddy?
Thank you. Thank you for those kind words. I very much appreciate them.
You're a good man, my friend. I have lots of respect for your ability to look into a crystal ball. Most people, the first thing they say when you ask them a question is, they go, well, I don't have a crystal ball, but you do, and that's what I like. All right, where do you want to start? You want to start with a lot of people are saying, hey, you and other people had said, well, 2012 was really going to be the massive riots and the greatest depression of them all. Didn't happen. To me, I think you were right. I think it did happen. It began then, and it's playing out now. What do you say?
Well, what happened was, Dan, is that we're making trend forecasts based on the information that we have. And we don't know what's going on behind closed doors. So behind closed doors, as we later found out, the Federal Reserve had been pumping tens of trillions of dollars into the system.
Right.
And you look at what's going, and who knew? I mean, we didn't know. It was unprecedented. And by the way, the people say, this is a failure of capitalism, what's going on. This is not a failure of capitalism. It's fascism. It's the merger of state and corporate powers. In capitalism, there is no such thing as too big to fail. In capitalism, you fail. It's not because who you're connected to or who your daddy is. And what they did was they robbed capitalism of the United States, and they've turned it into fascism. At many different levels, by the way. It's the merger of state and corporate powers. Obamacare, perfect fascist. People call it socialist. Not socialist. We're being forced to buy insurance from their buddies in the insurance biz. And that's it. And it's a monopoly. It's not quite a monopoly, an oligopoly.
Right.
So going back to why we got it wrong in 2012. We had no idea that they were doing this. So now you see, let's fast forward, as you said. You look at the latest Gallup poll that came out. They're showing that, the unemployment rate is not 7.4%. It's more like 8.6%, according to their research. And then you go to people like John Williams Shadow Stats, and, of course, we quote him in the latest Trends Journal.
Sure.
And you're looking at 22% when you put in the list of the people that are no longer looking for jobs and people that have temporary or part-time work and want full-time work.
Hey, Gerald, just as a quick sidebar, too, we had on the head of the BLS just a couple weeks ago.
Right?
Well, under George Bush, last administration, but he is still a very active individual, and his numbers are 24% of the American workforce cannot find a job right now. Those are his numbers and backed up by BLS statistics.
Is that Ken Hall or something like that? I believe his name is.
Hey, Shane can look it up for me.
And anyway, because I also read what he was saying, and that is that 97% of the jobs created this year, 97% are part-time jobs.
I mean, and that's exactly right.
That's the Bureau.
But they're counted as a job.
And they're counted as a job. And then you look at where the jobs are created. And again, these are all hard numbers. The jobs are in retail, they're in restaurants, they're in temporary work, and they're in temporary agencies, and they're in also home health care services, which pay nothing. And so over 61% of the jobs are jobs that are not living wage jobs. Only, I believe it's 17% are in the higher bracket and 22% they consider middle income. And then you look at what's going on around the world because, once again, all things are connected.
Right.
So as I said, no, we got it wrong in 2012 because we did not see what was going on. But then you saw what was going on. And now look what's going on in the emerging markets. The emerging markets are submerging. You name the place. India, hey, rupee's at an all-time low. Oh, yeah, along with the Turkish lira.
Yeah, down 15% just this year on the rupee.
Yeah, and what they also did over there is that they're making it almost impossible. And you know those Indians, they love, gold as much as curry.
You bet. As much as you and I do.
Yeah. And they can't buy it anymore because they're putting on such severe taxes, and they're banning the importation of coins and gold medallions.
Sure.
So now you're looking at that. Then you go over to Indonesia, and you're seeing the same thing going over there. You go to Malaysia, and their ringgit, it's falling to the floor. Same with the Thai baht and the Brazilian real. So all of these emerging markets are all declining. Why? Because of the same reason. Because of the fear that the Fed, and it goes back to your question, may stop the funny money game at some point. Because all of this hot money was flowing into these emerging countries where they were buying, their currencies gained strength, and they were able to borrow dollars really cheaply. And now they can't borrow dollars cheaply anymore. And they have to pay back their interest rate on the higher interest rates that are now going into place. And again, it all ties together because, as you can see today, with the new numbers that came out on homes.
So unbelievable. Month-to-month drop of round numbers, 15%. Month-to-month.
And go back to our TrendsJournal in the spring edition, and I called it an interest rate recovery. And then you go back to the new TrendsJournal that just came out several days ago, and I made it very clear. As interest rates go up, the housing market goes down. And our break point is over 5%. And right now we're at about 4.85.
You bet.
And it's gone up over 100 basis points in just a few months. So now you're looking at, if interest rates are no longer at these record lows, the economies of the world go down. Now what's going on? Then you go over to Turkey, for example, and they had that huge building boom going on because of all the hot money going in there.
Right.
And by the way, Erdogan, the prime minister, when they were having all those problems and the people were demonstrating, he was calling it an interest rate war because they built their economy on low interest rates, and of course now interest rates are going up. So what is now Turkey being forced to do to protect their lira? They're raising interest rates.
That's right.
Great. You're going to raise interest rates as your economy is slowing. Man, what do you got, Bernanke working with you? And would you bring in Greenspan or the brilliant Larry Summers? That guy's back in the news.
Have you seen the information about Larry Summers today? And have you seen about the confidential memo at the heart of the global financial crisis? Have you seen?
No.
I don't want to spring this on you, but I'll make it very, very quick. Memos are surfacing now talking about a conspiracy in the late '90s between the U.S. Treasury officials and a small group of big bankers to tear apart the Chinese wall between banking and investment banking. That's number one. But there's a memo talking about the official World Trade WTO endgame. And the WTO said today it wasn't created as some dark cabal of multinational secretly cooking plots against the people. They're fighting back, and the leader of the pack is Larry Summers, and Tim Geithner was his buddy at the time. You'll never guess who they consider to be one of the top most powerful CEOs in the planet. Your buddy, John Corzine. This was supposedly a plot hatched in the 90s to destroy the world economy as it's playing out right now, and documents are just now coming out from the WTO talking about that.
Well, you look at these guys. Look at Robert Rubin.
Yes,
the Treasury Secretary.
Rubin's right in here.
Just before the brilliant Larry Summers. This guy, look at this guy. They used to brag about how he had a refrigerator in his office in the White House filled with Diet Coke. What imbecile would drink a lot of Diet Coke? Anyway, this guy, he's the guy that deregulated, as you said, the wall between the investment banks and commercial banks. They killed Glass-Steagall that was put in place during the Great Depression to prevent this from happening because of what they did in 29.
That's it.
And then Robert Rubin helped put it in place, and he was Treasury Secretary under Reagan before Larry Brilliant Summers. And then where did Robert Rubin go? Robert Rubin then went to Citigroup. Oh, you remember? Citigroup. They used to shovel out that, what's his name there? Weil? What was that guy?
Larry Weil.
Larry Weil.
I think it's Larry Weil. Yeah, hang on. Let me go look that up. Go ahead.
And he was the guy that with Travelers Insurance, and he merged it with Smith Barney and Citibank and created Citigroup. And that guy they had him on every TV show. Another brilliant guy. Oh, and then what happened? Robert Rubin got a job after he left the Clinton administration with Citigroup.
Sandy Weil.
Yeah. And then he got a job there. And what did he make? A reported $110 million, I believe.
I'm reading through those numbers right now. $188 million went to Rubin, I believe it is, at least according to this article. Yeah, hundreds.
Yeah.
And 9 figures.
Yeah. So this is what's going on. Grow up, everybody. It's a rigged game, and you're not in it. And you
well,
look at the numbers
that pretty much says it all.
you look at the numbers that came out since the Great Recession. Our median income is still some 6.4%. Median household income's down some 6.4% from 2008.
Yep,
and it's below 1999 levels.
That's the key there too. It's below 1999 levels, and if you look at it adjusted for inflation, it hasn't increased in 30 years.
And why should it? Why do we deserve anything? Go get a job at Walmart's, at Staples. This is a takeover. I said this is fascism. Look, I'm old enough to remember. Yeah, here's a quaint thing, Dan. There used to be a thing called stationery stores.
Yep.
Yeah, we had one right up here in Uptown Kingston, Colonial Kingston, New York, O'Reilly's. And now what do we have? Staples. Oh, there used to be a hardware store. And now what do we have? Lowe's and Home Depot.
Yep. Hey, I've got about 2 more minutes, and I want to get one question in here, at least one question, and that is how are your friends at MF Global doing? Did we learn anything from this whole scandal?
Yeah, everybody should learn that if you don't have your money in your pocket, you don't own it.
Yes.
And that's what you're seeing more and more. Look what just happened with this thing with the Goldman Sachs gang a couple of days ago. Oh, that little mistake. Look what happened with the NASDAQ yesterday. Watching it unwinding as there was an electronic problem. If you don't have your money, you don't own it.
Well, look at Goldman not too long ago admitting that they were taking fees from people for storing their gold, and not only were they not storing their gold, they had no gold. They were charging them for storing nothing, and the gold was not there.
I know. And the other thing is, too, and you know my forecast in gold, you look at the TrendsJournal that just went out, and I had said back in June that gold had bottomed. I called it, I think it was June 26th. It was around 1232.
Right.
I said the downside is about another $100. And I nailed it. I believe that if you see gold stay over around above 1355 for the next week, and of course it's now at about 1397.
Yep.
We're going to see another gold bull run begin, because they're not going to be able to taper. The whole world is in an economic slowdown.
Couldn't agree more. But so many people are saying, well, the taper is built in. No way, no how. And if they do taper, it's going to go from $85 billion to $84 billion just to say that they did it. You cannot pull that money out once the world's economy, which is where the U.S. is feeding it right now, once the economy is used to that $85 billion, you can't pull it out without contracting the economy.
Look what's going on around the world. You don't need any more proof of what's going on in anticipation of their stopping that hot money from flowing into all these countries. They're in free fall. It's a free fall in India, in Indonesia, and they have and China's facing a debt problem, the likes of which dwarf what happened in the U.S.
You know who had a great quote the other day? He's an acquaintance of mine, and he is one of the most brilliant people I know. He ranks right up there with you, Gerald. Kyle Bass. Kyle said, "You cannot fix the problems of the world. There are roughly at 360% as much debt in the world as there is GDP, not equity, as GDP. So that's an unfixable situation." He's absolutely right. Doesn't matter where you move the pea underneath the walnut shells. That debt is still always going to be there somewhere.
Look at the GDP or debt to GDP ratio of Japan. You
Yep.
got this guy Abe over there that devalued the yen over 20% since he came into office in late November. And now you're seeing even there, and they were going to build the export market. That declined. Imports the cost of imports are escalating, and they have a debt to GDP ratio. I believe it's around 250%.
That's
There's
right.
absolutely no way they're going to get out of this except, hey, keep building more military ships. Aircraft carriers. That's right. How about starting another war? That's what they're going to do. When all else fails, they take you to war, and all of a sudden, you're hearing the war drums beating from Japan. They're now talking again about Syria. They're going to get our minds off this with a nice war. They do it all the time.
Couldn't be more right on the money, my friend. Gerald Celente, founder of the Trends Research Institute. If you haven't been out to the website, TrendsResearch.com or Gerald Celente, CELENTE.com. Either way, it's great stuff. And go out and take a look at the TrendsJournal newsletter. If you get a chance to sign up for it, this recent one is fabulous. 60 pages long, and every page is just jam-filled with accurate and just really, really, really good insights. My friend Gerald Celente, it is always great to have you on. God bless, and we will talk to you again very, very soon.
Thanks for having me on. All the best.
All right, take care.
Bye-bye.
We'll be back after this break.